When Bumpy Johnson heard the word 15, he didn't panic. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't call anyone in a rush. He simply nodded once and said, "Good. That means they're serious." Then he went back to eating his breakfast like nothing had changed. Eggs. Toast. Black coffee. The same routine he followed every morning. But inside his head, the machine was already moving. Bumpy didn't sleep much after that. For 3 days, he stayed awake in pieces. Short naps. Long walks. Quiet conversations in back rooms. He never wrote anything down. He never used the phone more than he had to. He only spoke to people he trusted with his life. And those people moved fast. The building at 409 Edgecombe Avenue wasn't just an apartment building. It was a fortress if you knew it well enough. The janitor owed Bumpy his job. The night doorman's son had been saved from prison by one of Bumpy's lawyers. The elevator operator had grown up on the same block as Bumpy and still called him Mr. Johnson, like a kid talking to a teacher. Every man in that building knew exactly what to do when the time came. Bumpy made one rule clear. No guns. Not inside the building. Guns made noise. Guns brought police. Guns turned clean work into chaos. This was going to be quiet. Slow. Controlled. On the night of the hit, Bumpy wasn't in bed. Apartment 7C was dark and empty. The lights were off. The door was unlocked. The bed was made to look slept in. It was bait. The first 2 Genovese men came up the stairs instead of using the elevator. Professionals. They moved slow, listening, counting steps. When they reached the 7th floor, they saw the door to 7C slightly open. One of them smiled. Easy job, he thought. He never saw the wire that it was thin. Almost invisible in the dark. Stretched tight across the hallway at neck height. He walked straight into it. The second man bumped into him before he even realized what happened. Then the lights came on. Not bright. Just enough. Hands came out of the walls. From doorways. From behind stairwells. Arms wrapped around throats. Mouths were covered. Bodies were dragged inside empty apartments like sacks of trash. No shouting. No gunshots. Just breathing. Struggling. Then silence. This went on for hours. One by one, the 15 men disappeared into that building. Each one thinking the same thing. We're early. We're quiet. We've got him. They were wrong. Bumpy watched most of it from a chair in apartment 6B, sipping coffee that had gone cold. He didn't touch anyone himself at first. He gave orders in a calm voice. Take his shoes. Tie his hands tighter. Don't let him pass out yet. He wasn't angry. He was focused. Vinny the Hammer was the last one in. He came in angry, already annoyed that it was taking too long. He didn't like Harlem. Didn't like the building. Didn't like the quiet. When he saw the door to 7C open, he kicked it hard and stepped inside. That's when Bumpy stepped out of the shadows. They locked eyes for a second. Vinny reached for his gun. Too slow. What happened to those men was never written down. No police report. No hospital records. No bodies were ever found. Just rumors. Whispers. Stories that changed every time they were told. Some said the men were buried under the Hudson. Some said they were fed to pigs upstate. Some said they were still alive when they were thrown into the water. The truth was simpler and worse. Bumpy made sure only one thing left that building. A message. By the time the sun came up, Bumpy was done. He washed his hands. Changed his clothes. Put on a clean gray suit. Perfectly pressed. He checked his watch. 5:12 a.m. Then he walked downstairs like a man heading to work. That's when Tommy Falcone saw him. Tommy had never met Bumpy Johnson before. But he knew who he was. Everyone did. When Bumpy tapped on the window, Tommy felt his chest tighten. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't move. Bumpy didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten him. He didn't even look angry. "This isn't for you," Bumpy said quietly. "You were just the driver." Then he dropped the tongue in Tommy's lap. "Take it back to your boss," Bumpy said. "Tell him Harlem is closed." Tommy drove away shaking, tears running down his face, the sun rising behind him. He delivered exactly what he was told to deliver. And after that morning, Tommy Falcone never spoke again. When Vito Genovese received the tongue, the room went silent. Men who had survived wars, prison, and murder didn't say a word. Vito stared at it for a long time. Then he stood up and walked out. There was no retaliation. No second attempt. No war. Heroin still flowed into New York. But it went around Harlem. It stayed out. Everyone understood the message. You could do business with Bumpy Johnson. You could argue with him. You could even hate him. But you could not remove him. Because Bumpy Johnson wasn't just protecting himself. He was protecting Harlem. And he was willing to drown the city in blood before letting anyone poison it. And that night at 409 Edgecombe Avenue was when the Italian mob finally understood that some territory simply wasn't worth the cost. "If I run, I'm finished." That's what Bumpy said. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just a fact. Illinois Gordon knew better than to argue after that. When Bumpy made up his mind, it was already done. The next night, Bumpy walked through the building one last time. Floor by floor. Stairwell by stairwell. He checked everything himself. He tested the loose steps. He counted doors. He memorized shadows. He spoke quietly to each man, looking them in the eye. No speeches. No hype. Just simple instructions. Where to stand. When to move. When not to move. Everyone understood what was coming. Bumpy wasn't setting a trap for 15 men. He was setting a lesson for the entire Italian mob. The Genovese crew arrived just after midnight. 3 black Cadillacs sliding up to the curb like funeral cars. Engines running low. No music. No talking. Vinny the Hammer stepped out first. Big man. Confident. Smiling like he was already done with the job. He adjusted his coat and tapped his hammer once against his palm, a habit he had before killing. They moved fast into the building. No hesitation. No fear. That was their second mistake. The lobby was dark. Too dark. No desk light. No elevator light. Just black. One of the men whispered something about it feeling wrong. Vinny shut him up with a look. Keep moving. The elevator doors were stuck open. Out of order sign hanging crooked. They took the stairs. That's when the building swallowed them. The first man never even made it to the second floor. A door opened behind him. An arm locked around his neck. A blade slid in under his ribs. Quiet. Clean. His body was pulled backward and the door closed like nothing happened. The rest kept climbing. On the third floor, 2 men stepped forward together. A wire snapped tight across the stairwell. One tripped. The other leaned down to help him. That's when hands came out of the darkness. Knives flashed. Bones cracked. Both were gone in seconds. By the time they reached the 5th floor, panic had started creeping in. They couldn't see each other clearly. They couldn't hear anything except their own breathing. Every shadow looked like a man. Every sound felt close. Vinny finally realized something was wrong. "Spread out," he whispered. "Find him." That's when the lights flicked on for just a moment. Not enough to see faces. Just enough to see numbers. Too many numbers. Then the lights went out again. The Italians started fighting back, swinging blindly, shouting names, firing one gun before it was ripped from their hands. That gunshot echoed once, then died. No sirens followed. No neighbors called the police. Harlem stayed quiet. Room by room, floor by floor, Bumpy's men worked. No rush. No mercy. Every scream was cut short. Every struggle ended the same way. Vinny the Hammer made it to the 7th floor alone. He found apartment 7C empty, exactly as planned. He stood there breathing hard, hammer in his hand, sweat running down his face. For the first time in his life, he felt something new. Fear. That's when Bumpy stepped out behind him. Vinny turned fast, swinging. Bumpy caught his wrist. Stronger than he looked. Calm. Almost gentle. "You came into my house," Bumpy said. "You brought killers into my neighborhood." Vinny tried to talk. Tried to threaten. Tried to bargain. Bumpy shook his head. "You talk too much." What happened next never left that room. By sunrise, the building was clean. No blood in the halls. No bodies left behind. Just silence. Bumpy walked out alone. And back in Little Italy, when Vito Genovese received what was left of his best enforcer, he finally understood the truth. Killing Bumpy Johnson wouldn't make him powerful. It would destroy him. From that day on, Harlem was off limits. Not because of fear. But because of respect. And everyone in the underworld knew why. Every Italian crew in the city would hear about it. Every punk with a gun would smell fear. That's what Bumpy understood better than anyone. If he ran now, he wouldn't just lose Harlem. He'd lose everything. Respect was the only real currency he had, and once it cracked, it never came back. Illinois Gordon looked at him and asked the question everyone was thinking. "What about Vito? This is going to start a war." Bumpy smiled, but there was no warmth in it. It was the smile of a man who had already counted the bodies. "No, it won't. When Vito sees what happens to his men, he'll understand something simple. War with me costs more than peace. That's the lesson. And I'm about to teach it." The night before the hit, Bumpy did something that surprised even his closest people. He went to church. Abyssinian Baptist. He sat alone in the back pew for nearly an hour. No prayers whispered. No head bowed. Just a man sitting with his thoughts. Thinking about Harlem. About the people who trusted him. About the line he was about to cross. When he stood up to leave, he looked calm. Lighter, even. His driver asked where to. "Home," Bumpy said. "Tomorrow's going to be a long night." Just after midnight, the 3 Cadillacs rolled up to 409, Edgecombe Avenue. Black paint. Chrome shining under the streetlight. Engines idling low. Vinny the Hammer Terzo stepped out first. He looked up at the building. 7 floors. 1 man. Easy work. "Let's go," he said. "Quick and clean. We'll be drinking in Manhattan by sunrise." They walked inside. The lobby was dead quiet. No desk light. No sound. The elevator doors stood open with an out-of-order sign hanging crooked. Someone laughed under their breath. "Bad building management." "Stairs," Vinny said. 2 groups. "Stay tight." They started climbing. First floor, dark. Second floor, darker. By the 3rd floor, they were blind. One man whispered that something felt wrong. Vinny shut him down. Doesn't matter. Keep moving. They reached the 4th floor. That's when Sal Piccolo vanished. 1 second he was there. The next, he was gone. No shout. No struggle. Just hands out of the dark and a blade across his throat. His body was pulled into an empty apartment and the door closed softly. The others didn't even realize it right away. By the 5th floor, 2 more men disappeared. Then another. Confusion turned into fear. Names were whispered. Where's Joey? Where's Sal? Then the lights snapped on. Just for a second. Enough to see 6 men standing at the end of the hallway. Bats. Knives. Chains. Faces hard and ready. Then the lights went out again. Bumpy's men rushed them. The hallway exploded into violence. Bone on bone. Metal on flesh. Men screaming and falling. Someone fired a gun once before it was knocked away. That sound died fast. No sirens followed. Harlem slept on. Vinny ran. He made it to the 6th floor before 4 men tackled him and dragged him into an apartment. The door slammed shut. 12 minutes. That's all it took. 15 of the Genovese family's best killers were finished. 9 dead. 6 broken beyond repair. When the building finally went quiet, Bumpy Johnson walked down from the 7th floor. He wore a clean gray suit. Shoes polished. Calm as a man heading to a meeting. His men had lined the survivors on their knees in the 4th floor hallway. Bumpy walked past them slowly. He stopped in front of Vinny. You're Vinny, right? The Hammer. Vinny spat blood and told him to go to hell. Bumpy nodded. I heard you like to talk. Like to brag. That's a lot of talking, Vinny. Maybe too much. He pulled out the pliers. What happened next was never officially spoken about. The survivors never described it. But when it was over, Vinny Terzo no longer had a tongue. Bumpy turned to the others. You're going to deliver a message. Tell Vito Harlem is mine. Tell him if he sends men here again, I won't send them back. And tell him this. I know where he lives. I know his family. If he wants peace, he can have it. All he has to do is stay out of Harlem. Then he gave the order. Break their legs. Drag them outside. At 5:15 a.m., Bumpy walked out alone. He tapped on the Cadillac window where young Tommy Falcone waited shaking. He dropped the tongue in his lap. Take that back to your boss. Then Bumpy went back upstairs and went to sleep. Tommy drove back to Manhattan with 5 broken men and a message soaked in blood. He delivered it. He never spoke again. Word spread fast. Vito raged. He wanted war. But his captains talked him down. 15 men went in. 9 died. 6 came back ruined. And Bumpy didn't have a scratch. Harlem was left alone. The legend grew. The details didn't matter anymore. What mattered was the truth everyone understood. Bumpy Johnson wasn't just a man. He was Harlem. And on one night in 1952, he made sure the entire underworld knew it.